another thing that I just wanted to ask you about is that, there's the sort of technical policy stuff that we talked about, curriculum and other things. But one feature that I've really noticed, this is sort of from my journalist hat on, is that schools are in the headlines a lot at the moment linked to the culture war stuff, whether it's sex and relationship, education, whether it's the, transgender, whether it's toilets, whether it's freedom of speech. How do you think Labour should navigate that? Because look, some of the stuff is nonsense that's whipped up from certain Conservatives and certain sections of the right-wing press. But there are some issues that some parents do genuinely have, concerns about. How do you think Labour should navigate that, Laura?
Yeah, these are real issues for schools, and it's annoying when the government has a tendency in the last couple of years in particular, I think, to cause the headlines, to put out very confusing and conflicting guidance. Even just in the last week, the new sex and relationship guidance, on the one hand, essentially bans teachers from talking about gender ideology, but then requires them to talk about gender reassignment, but must only talk about the facts. Yet there is no guidance on what those facts are and what the difference actually is between the two. And of course, we could say, well, people will work it out. But the fact that the government don't want to write it down or work it out, and yet they're expecting now 24,000 school leaders to do that and be very vulnerable to media flare-ups or anything else, I think is really unfair. So if Labour want to be serious about this, I think we go back to actually the way of dealing with this, which Conservative governments did in the past. When Nicky Morgan was in power, Justine Greening, we had education secretaries who actually really dealt with this very well, put in new guidance, dealt with things very well, worked consultatively with the sector, didn't get they didn't inflame people. And I think you just have to go back to recognizing their real problems, work with people on guidance, make the guidance really clear, and change things as you go.
I do wonder with it. I mean, the sex education guidance, it's not a field in which I am an expert, but it felt very muddled and confusing to me. I thought it was going to be a real headache for school leaders. I also showed the story about it on the BBC to my twins who are 14, who are in year 9 and would be, and they were sort of looking through it. Do they know we have the internet? They were just utterly baffled at this sort of suggestion that they wouldn't already know about all of these things by the age that they've reached. So it felt sort of a bit otherworldly and a bit confused, and actually really an attempt to kind of keep lots of different groups within the Conservative Party happy, really, rather than give something that would be useful to schools. So I think Labour will have a bit of a job just with that guidance itself, to sort of, if it has come in by then, maybe they might have to redo it again.